Okay, welcome to a brand new feature. This is called They Did What, and what this series is going to look at, it's going to look at some of the classic sort of old school publishing companies. Probably, well, I was going to say primarily 8-bit. I'm going to be looking at some of the very, very early companies that put out all the games that we remembered. Now, obviously, there's going to be far too many games to sort of look at each one. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to have a wee look across various platforms and sort of pick out some of my favourites. Look at, the best games and some of the not so quite good games. So to kick things off, I'm going to look at a company that was quite a favourite of mine's, Llamasoft. Now, to quote Jeff's own sort of history on his website, Llamasoft was founded in 1982 by Jeff Minter, Yak as he's known. Llamasoft quickly established a reputation for producing games rich in originality, adrenaline-pumping action, quirky humour and digital ungulates. Over the years, Llamasoft has released over 30 games on nearly 20 platforms. Blimey, didn't know that. 20 platforms, that's incredible. Garnering plenty of awards along the way, as well as a loyal community of fans, the Llamasofties. Well, yeah, that's pretty much true. I'm really surprised to hear that he's put out games on 20 platforms. Saying that, I mean, a lot of the games that Jeff put out, they weren't released under Llamasoft, they were commissioned by other companies. So you had stuff like, you had the Conix, which was the ill-fated machine that never saw the light of day. He did was it Attack the Mutant Camels, I think it was, for that machine. He also did stuff for the Neon, was that Tempest 2000? He also did the Jaguar. So a lot of the software he put out wasn't published under Llamasoft, but I'm purely interested in the actual publishing companies, publishing side of things, so I'm only going to be looking at games that were released under Llamasoft. So to kick things off, I'm going to look at a favourite of mine's. This is one of Jeff's very early games on the C64. It's Attack the Mutant Camels. Now, I think it was known as a different name in the States for whatever reason. I'm not quite sure why they insist on doing that. Now, this game, let's see if we can get it started. Let's see if it's the right joystick port. Press fire, right, it must be a different joystick port, so just let me swap the joysticks and away we go. Hopefully, here we go. Now, this game is largely influenced by the classic Empire Strikes Back, which was released on the Atari 2600. In the Empire Strikes Back, obviously you're shooting AT-ATs. In this game, bollocks, you're not shooting bollocks, you're shooting mutant camels. Now, Jeff has commented before that he wasn't the best when it came to graphics, and indeed he feels that this rather looks like a camel, it looks like two people and a pantomime horse, which is quite true. Now, the scrolling in this game wasn't the greatest, it's quite jerky. I mean, later games of Jeff's were incredible, he really mastered the hardware, but this doesn't stop me loving this game. All of Jeff's games, they've always got blistering sound. I mean, the sound to me is probably his strongest point. I mean, the gameplay is awesome as well. But this is a fantastic little shoot 'em up, it really is. This is the secret, is just to basically go behind them and shoot up their backside. And then wait for, I think, every 5th missile is a homing missile, so what you need to do is at the last second, jump out the road of it. Let's see if I can get to the... Now, obviously, the closer you get, the quicker you fire. Like each time you destroy a camel without dying, your bonus goes up, the next one's worth even more points. Now, this is quite a difficult little stage. It's caught me out many times. Yeah, and then you go back for some more, except this time the bullets come in even quicker. This was ported to the Atari 2600, not the 2600, this game was ported to the Atari 8-bit I should say. Now the 8-bit version, the Atari version, is to most people's minds the best version. It's got really slick scrolling, but I just find it too unplayable. I'm just used to this version. I don't know whether this version is easier. If I'm better at this one then probably that's the case, but both versions are excellent. But if you've never played this one, then I'd suggest you go and check out the Atari one. Anyway, I could play this all day. It's such a good game. Let's just kill this last one if we can. Right, okay, let's move on. That is Attack the Mutant Camels, and that was on the Commodore 64. Right, this game is probably one of the best old Llamasoft games. It's certainly one of the the sort of most fondly remembered. This is Llamatron. Now this first came out on the Atari ST, and it was one of the games that first kind of launched the sort of shareware selling procedure or selling system, whereby you basically got the game for nothing. I mean, you can see there Jeff actually says it best. This program is shareware. If you enjoy this game and would like to see more and better stuff from me in this format, please support me by paying Llamasoft a £5 shareware fee. Now apparently Jeff received a shitload of money from this, so it was basically down to trust. If you wanted to play the game, you wanted to pay, you could pay. If you didn't want to pay it and just keep the game, you could still do that. Now on the Atari ST, what did we have? We had Andy's Attack, Colour Space, Gridrunner, Hardcore, which is a demo, no idea what that is, Llamatron, Revenge of the Mutant Camels, Rude Llamatron, which is definitely worth checking out, and Tripatron. So let's see if we can start this game. Now this game is basically a homage to Robotron 2084, which a few of you may know is my favourite game of all time. Now you can actually configure this to use 2 joysticks, so it plays exactly like Robotron. The only problem is using the emulator, Steam, which is a cracking emulator. It's an absolute nightmare trying to get it configured. I've tried in the past and failed miserably. So there's different control methods. I mean, this one I'm using here, you don't even have to press fire button. You basically control the little llama and pick up your little friends, and you automatically fire. In fact, I've just sussed out something. You fire in the direction you're walking. But what you can do here, you can actually you can hold the fire button down, which locks the firing in the direction that you want. So I'm going to lock it to fire left to right, like so. Right, okay. There you go. I've been playing this game for how many years, and I've just figured out that you can do that. But this is an amazing game, and using the power of emulators, you can increase the speed, you can increase it to run quick as well, so you can really sort of tweak it to your heart's content. There's a little brains which can make an appearance in the original Robotron. I think I did mention this game also was released for the Commodore Amiga, although the purists always say that the Atari ST one was the original and the best one. This is one of these games, I mean, it's like Robotron, it plays very, very similar to Robotron, but it's a hell of a lot easier. So it means that you can actually get a pretty decent game going. This is an excellent game though. It's got some great sound. Anyway, listen, I could literally play that all night. So that is Llamatron, and that is on the Atari ST. Right, this is Ancipital, a game that I didn't really play, I must admit. Back in the day, this came out in 1984, and it's a typical Jeff Minter game with lots of wild and wacky animals, with the main character being is it a yak? I think it is. Now it's quite a bizarre game. Oops, a daisy. You can kind of jump between different sides of the screen. It's almost like gravity takes a hold. It's a typical Jeff Minter game though, you know, it's got some really abstract sort of enemies. Now, I do apologise, I've never really played this game, so I'm not quite sure as to what I'm supposed to be doing. You can, when you're falling, you can push the fire button and sort of move which side of the room you're actually on. I mean, this was a game that a lot of people rated very highly, but I'm just really not too sure what I'm doing here. I mean, you can see there's various bits at the top, north, west. I don't know what the different numbers stand for. But this was a typical Llamasoft game with lots of really odd kind of characters, but plenty of originality. So that was Ancipital. Right, this is Battle Axe. Again by Llamasoft, obviously. How do we start? And it's got a really nice loading screen. Is it a loading screen? Is that just a title screen? I think it is actually. Right, must be a different joystick port. Now this, I believe, it's like sub-games, wee mini-games. Let's see. Number 1. Alright, what am I actually doing here? Right, I'm not quite sure what's actually happening. Swap joysticks. Right, here we go. Now, you can see here, this is a sort of like an enhanced version of Attack of the Mutant Camels. I mean, you can see here just how much better this particular version looks from the earlier one. Now, a lot of Jeff's games I found just a wee bit too kind of complicated to play. I just couldn't quite grasp them. Saying that though, there was quite a few of his games I absolutely love, but this one wasn't one that I really played much. One thing about Jeff's games is they've always got some stunning kind of pyrotechnics and colours and graphics, and the sound is usually even better. I mean, he certainly knew how to sort of navigate the SID chip. Right, anyway, I don't know, can I pick a different game? Yeah, now this is quite a bizarre looking thing. I've got no idea what's actually happening here. Am I shooting? I don't think I am. You're obviously on the back of a camel of some sort, but I don't know quite what you're actually supposed to be doing here. I don't know. Anyway, listen, that is Battle Axe. Okay, right, this is Gridrunner. This is on the VIC-20. Now the VIC-20, the Commodore VIC-20 was probably Jeff's first main machine. I mean, I know he did program the ZX81, I believe, but the VIC-20 was where he really got to kind of grips with the hardware. And then obviously he moved on to the C64, Spectrum, etc. But I mean, this was probably the 8-bit system that he did the most games from. I mean, looking at Gamebase here, he did a game called 3D Labyrinth, Abductor, Andy's Attack, Blitzkrieg, which I've never heard of, Defender with no R, Deflex 5, Gridrunner, which this is, Headbangers Heaven, there you go, I actually thought that was just in the Spectrum, Hellgate, Laser Zone, Matrix, Metagalactic Llamas, Battle at the Edge of Time, Micro Breakout, Psychedelia, Ratman, Rocks 2, Rocks 3 and Tracks. Now this is Gridrunner. This has been ported on a lot of systems including iOS, including Android, C64, Amiga. I mean, it's a cracking game, it's an excellent shoot 'em up, so let's have a wee shot. And again, this the VIC-20 is the version for the purists. It's come out on a lot of other systems. I would probably agree with that until the iOS one came out. I mean, this is an absolutely incredible game on iOS or on Android, I have to say. The sort of the touch screen just lends itself perfectly to this game. As you can probably tell, it kind of lends, or it borrows quite heavily from Centipede. Bollocks. The difference is apart from just having this sort of aliens that come down from the top of the screen, you've got these vertical and horizontal lasers, so you've got to always be kind of mindful of where you actually are in the grid so that they don't zap you, but it's easier said than done. But this game is pretty widely renowned as being probably one of the best games on the VIC-20. I mean, even now, 2015, it still plays excellently. Yeah, the graphics are crude, but you know what, that doesn't matter in a game like this. Balls. But yeah, even now it still plays brilliantly. It's still a great game. So yeah, that is Gridrunner, and that is on the Commodore VIC-20. Okay, right, this is Turboflex, and this is on the Atari 8-bit. Now the games at GameBase, which I'm using here, say Llamasoft released on the Atari 8-bit, was including Attack of the Mutant Camels, Gridrunner, Hoverboard, and this game Turboflex. Now I've never even heard of Turboflex, I've got no idea what it's doing. Now the fact that it's setting up data, I'm guessing it's probably written in BASIC. There you go, 1982. I've got no idea what to do. N and M to deflect ball. Right, so let's see. Right, now there's a game called Deflex that Jeff wrote, and it's basically this. You've got a ball that bounces about, and using a series of kind of gates or bouncers, what I don't know what you call them, flippers type thing, you've got to try and direct the ball to take out the target. Now it's a game that I've never really been able to play. I just don't really understand. It's too complicated for my small brain, I think. But this looks like a very, very early version of this. So you've got to try and plot the gates to point the ball towards the sort of target. Yeah, anyway, I've probably seen enough of that. That's Turboflex, and that is on the Atari 8. Right, this is Headbangers Heaven, and this is on the ZX Spectrum. Now, the Spectrum didn't have that many released games. Looking at the list here for the Spectrum, There were only 4 games released by Llamasoft. There was City Bomber, which was one of these really popular sort of dropping bombs in a landscape. There was this one, Headbangers Heaven. There was Rocks 3, which Rocks appeared on, I think it appeared on Atari, and it definitely appeared on the Commodore 64, and also Super Deflex. So this is the one we're going to look at on the Spectrum. I don't think this was released on any other system. So how do we start? B to begin. Now the idea being you've got to try and... do you have to avoid these? Yeah, I think you've got to try and avoid getting these things falling on your head. Now looking at it, it looks awful like this is written in. Is it? Am I going to pick these up? Ah, right. Right, okay, so the idea being is... the idea being is you've got to try and get them to land on your head. Yeah, it does look like this is a basic game. Yeah, but you can't allow it to land anywhere else, it's got to land on your head. Oops. Now it's pretty basic to say the least. Oops, bollocks. Anyway, yeah, it's probably not one of Jeff's best games, so let's move swiftly on. This is Sheep in Space. It's got the music by James Lisney, who also did the music for Revenge of the Mutant Camels. James Lisney went on to become a very... what's the right word for it? He was a renowned classical artist. There's probably some better word or description for it, but yeah, again, this is a game I never really played much back in the day, but let's give it a go. It's a sort of shoot 'em up in typical Jeff Minter fashion. Now, how do we start? Is it fire one? There we go. Now you basically play the part of a sheep, and instead of bullets you're actually firing what are called bonios of doom. Now what you can do is, as you can see there, you're actually flying across one landscape and below another one, and each of these landscapes have their own gravity, so when you get quite near you'll see his little feet come down. Ah, balls. And you can land, but I don't think you can land anywhere. You can only land on parts where there's grass. Now at the bottom you'll see there, it says, bottom right, it says his stomach's, well, it was bloated, and it's now telling me I need to get some grass. So what I'm going to do is, damn it. You'll see there was grass. What you need to try and do is land in the grass to fill his stomach. Now, you may notice it's got a great deal of inertia, so it's kind of hard to actually stop still. You see there, he's now eating. So he's full up again, so if his stomach gets empty, he basically dies. Now, Sheep's in Space, this game, Sheep in Space, I don't think it came out for any other system, just the Commodore 64. He's getting hungry, so I shall come down to land like so, and he fills his stomach. But this is a really nice little game. Again, it wasn't really one I played much myself, but it's really kind of revered by a lot of people. So I suggest you go and check it out. So yeah, that's Sheep in Space. Okay, right, this is Tripatron on the Atari ST. Now this is it's not a game as such, it's a light synthesizer, which I'm hopefully going to demonstrate. Left mouse button for mouse. Okay, let's go. Now, what this game is, or what this piece of software is, basically, you can use the cursor and you can make some nice little patterns here. Now you can see here, as I move the mouse up and down, it kind of copies what I'm doing. Now this first came out, what was it called? Not Colour Space, I can't even remember the name of it. It first came out on Atari ST, on Atari 8-bit. It also came out on the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. But yeah, the 16-bit machines like the Atari ST here really allowed you to do some neat stuff. Now, I haven't a clue. I've got absolutely no idea. What I'm doing here. Ooh, I don't like that. How do we exit that? Now you press color presets. But the idea of these things, Jeff called it a light synthesizer, and the idea of this was to basically put on some trippy music and you could control the lights. And it is, I must admit, I mean, this is the first time I've actually played this. It is very, very pretty. So yeah, this was Tripatron, and that was on the Atari ST. This game needs very little introduction. Well, I'm saying that just because it's a favourite game of mine. This is Revenge of Mutant Camels. Now this was on the Commodore 64. This was probably the first big game that Jeff did. It's a very early game, but I mean, the music is just awesome. The scrolling's perfect. It's a real classic Jeff Minter game. Now, I love this game. I was never very good at it. It's a stinkingly hard game. It's probably quite a good word to use since it's a Jeff Minter game. The idea being you control this little cute little camel at the bottom, and you've got to try and navigate your way through, I don't know how many zones. You'll see at the top there, it says next zone 5 kilometers, so that's basically the distance you've got to go until you move on to the next level. Now this game had some absolutely fantastic sprites, totally original stuff. I mean, it just, it could only be a Jeff Minter game. The controls do take a wee bit getting used to. If you hold down the fire button, you can basically walk forwards left and right, and you can sort of angle your shooting, whether it's straight up or diagonally. But you'll see there, you're getting hammered the whole time. And the camel, depending on the amount of power he's got, energy he's got, changes colour. Or neutronium rather than energy. So on his zone 2. But yeah, the sprites in this game are fantastic. Even the wee background objects, they just look, it's quite minimalist, but it's excellent. The sound is brilliant as well. I've never ever completed this game, it's as hard as nails. Anyway, listen, I could play that game all night. That's Revenge of the Mutant Camels, and that is on the Commodore 64. Okay, this is Hoverboard, and this is on the Atari 8-bit. Now, it also came out in the C64, that was the one that I always played, but it was released in Atari. The sound sounds very similar. Let's give the game a go. Oops, how do we start? I want to go back to load number 1. Press start. Okay, now that's... How do we press start? Bear with me. Right, we eventually got there. That's the problem with emulators that have specific keys like start. Now apparently Jeff came up with the idea for this game when he was at a B&B with his dad, and he looked out and he says it was your typical sort of English country garden, and apparently there was a guy cutting grass, and he just thought that would make an excellent idea for a computer game, and he went away and Hoverboard was born. Now the idea of the game is, you'll see there at the left hand side of the screen, you've got a little blue character. He's the gardener, or he's the guy that's he's your neighbour whose lawnmower you've borrowed. Let's turn the sound on me, but I can't actually hear myself speak. The little guy in the middle of the screen, sort of, I think he's kind of black coloured, he's the gardener. Every time you go over the flower beds, he comes out, and basically what they try and do is they try and get a hold of their lawnmower and take it off you. But what you've got a dog, which you can kind of set to attack the neighbour, but the dog only has so much loyalty. After a while you'll move over your lawnmower like so, allowing the neighbour or gardener to come and pinch the lawnmower. So yeah, that's the premise of Hoverboard. Okay then, right, this is Llama, another game put out by Llamasoft on the C64. Now I did forget to mention other games that's been released on the C64. We had Attack of the Mutant Camels, we had Advance of the Mega Camels. I think that was probably the same game but released in a different country. We had Ancipital, we had the Battle Axe, we had Hellgate, Hoverboard, Laser Zone, Llama, which this game is, Matrix, Metagalactic Llamas Battle at the Edge of Time, Revenge of the Mutant Camels, Rocks 64 and Sheep in Space. Now this game here, Llama, was famously panned. It was famously panned by Zap 64 magazine because I think it was just far too complicated to play. I think it was just too clever for most people. Now I can remember having one go of it, or a couple of goes of it, and I could simply not figure out what the hell I was supposed to be doing, and I've got to say, enter current level. Like, let's go for F1. I know Jeff famously sort of fell out with the Zap guys after the review that he gave this, or they gave this I should say. Now, I really have got no idea what I'm actually controlling here. Am I controlling that white thing? I really don't know. I can totally get what the guys for that were meaning. Game over. Bloody hell. Rory says game over, no more. That's probably about how I feel about it. Let's give it another go. I mean, I really don't know what's going on here. I'm sort of moving. I can move the thing left, up and down. I can move the thing left and right. Enter current level. Plant retrogenesis device. Let's plant a retrogenesis device. Right, I don't know. I've no idea what's happening. F1, cannot enter this level. Right, I've got absolutely no idea what's happening here. Let's try the same level once more. So I think this game was probably just a bit too clever for its own good. I'm not quite sure. Are these graphics corrupted? Are these large cocks in the background? Or are they the Eiffel Towers? Oh no, you know what? I beg your pardon, they're actually guitars. Right. I don't even know if this game's working properly. I have no idea. I appear to be controlling this sort of hamburger type thing. Right, well I notice I've not got any score. So they follow this thing, whatever this thing's supposed to be. Right, anyway, I think enough of that one. That's a bit of a bizarre game. That's Mamemeister. Okay, right, this is Andy's attack. Not Andy, but Andy's as in the hills or the mountains I should say. Andy's attack, and this is on the Commodore VIC-20. Now I've never actually played this game before. I've never even really seen it. I've heard all about it. It's one of Jeff's earliest games. Well, it came out in 1982, so it's not that early. Right, so we can see right away it's kind of Defender, except it's got a huge ship. Now you know what, considering it's probably written in BASIC, well it's maybe not written in BASIC, it's actually not too bad. Yeah, the scrolling could probably be a little bit kind of smoother, but it's got a nice little laser, and you can see there it's trying to capture the little camel, so let's try and shoot the guy down. Oh, bollocks. But it actually plays pretty damn well considering how sort of clunky it looks. Well, it's a wee bit hard to actually tell what kills you sometimes. The one thing about Llamasoft games is they're always nice and bright and they've always got nice graphics. Anyway, listen, that is probably it. That is Llamasoft. I didn't bother featuring any games on the Commodore Amiga because I don't think there was any games that came out for that. It didn't come out for the Atari ST, so I didn't bother featuring that one. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this feature, guys. Please feel free to give me some comments if there's anything you think I could probably do to improve this. But yeah, certainly I hope you enjoyed watching it. Give me your comments, and as usual, thank you so much for watching.